everyone, it is Kimber, the Study Abroad Specialist, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Maymester programs and why you should consider them if you want to study abroad. So if this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Please go ahead and click the subscribe button and also click the like button. I release videos every single Friday and sometimes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays now, talking about all things study abroad, tips, advice, and general information that you're going to need to know for a great semester away. So please plan on sticking around. So in the video for today, I wanted to dive deeper into Maymester. Now, I know that in a couple videos ago, I was talking about how summer study abroad programs tend to be the best of both worlds. I've really been trying to talk a lot about summer study abroad because, as you know, in spite of the current situation that we're in with Omicron and everything, that summer 2022 is still projected to be the huge kind of relaunch of a lot of study abroad programs. So I know there are a lot of you out there who are planning to study abroad in 2022 for the summer, and I definitely wanted to give that information to you. But for Maymester, I know that Maymester programs are still a little bit of a mystery. There are some people who probably until you clicked on this video, you had never even heard of a Maymester program. It's sort of like the stepchild, if you will, of the different study abroad type programs. Everyone knows about fall semester programs. A lot of people know about summer study abroad programs, but with Maymester, it's a little bit less known. Now, there are a couple of reasons for that. There are still a lot of schools and universities around the world that don't really offer anything like this. So it's much more kind of centralized. Before you get back to the video, I just wanted to pop in here to remind you to go ahead and download my free e-guide, Finding Your Perfect Study Abroad program. Now, this e-guide was created with students just like you in mind. It's all about how to find the perfect program for you. I know that that is something that students often struggle with. So we are going to be talking about how to find a program, what are some of the common types of programs, how to even track your budgeting as you're going through and applying, what to consider as you're looking at a visa, and so much more. So to find the e-guide, you can either follow the link that is here on the screen, or I'm also going to link it just below in the description box so that you can go ahead and get started. As I said, it is fully free, it is printable, and it is a lot of fun. There's also a very fun quiz as well to sort of help you figure out if you're on the right track. So definitely get started with that after you finish watching the video and have some fun with it. And please go ahead and get started so that you can find the best study abroad program for you. Back to the video. I know that for myself, my particular college and undergrad here in the US offered it, but it was a smaller college. And so they didn't necessarily have semester long programs, but they did have Maymester programs. And we'll talk about what they are in a second. So it's really just going to depend. There are also some independent and, sort of organizations that just focus on study abroad that do offer Maymester opportunities. But as I always say, if you do want to sign up with any type of study abroad program that is not related to a college or university that you currently go to, you just want to make sure that you're going to be eligible to accept any type of credit that you're going to be earning during that time. So to start off, what is a Maymester program? So I know this is probably going to shock you, but May is the key word in all of this. So Maymester programs are going to be short and quick study abroad programs that take place in the month of May. Now, I know that you would probably ask, why May and not April? Why is there not a Marchmester program? Well, May, you have to consider, is typically the winding down of most semesters or quarters for colleges and universities around the world. And with Maymester programs, they are meant to bridge the gap between students not doing a summer study abroad program, but also not doing full length semester or even year-long programs. Now, the first thing to know about Maymester programs is that they tend to be highly, highly focused and intensive. So depending on whatever your subject area is, that is usually what you're going to be going for. You're not going for more generalized studies, on different things like you would for a semester program. And you're also not sort of doing the same thing that you would do during the summer where maybe you're doing an internship and you're doing half generalized, half focused. These are very focused programs. So you will find them in the areas of language, you will find them in the areas of the arts, you will find them in the area of science or math or whatever it is. And the reason for that is that you are typically going for either a mission or you're going to finish off a specific project, or you're going to, let's say you're working on a dissertation and you're going to need to capture something from this particular trip to add into that dissertation. So for example, maybe you are in the medicine or science field, and the part of your mission that you need to do is to go shadow doctors in, let's say, a place like Sri Lanka, where they are always working to try and improve the healthcare system, but they need a lot of outside influence. So part of what you're doing through these 3 weeks is you are shadowing doctors, you're helping them with research, you're helping them, sort of learn they're teaching you how to do different things. And so that's something that you're able to come back, and then you're going to be able to write your dissertation on that, or write your final paper on that, or maybe that even feeds into what you're already been doing at school. So that's just an example, but it could be in the arts, maybe it's in theater, maybe it is in, marketing. It could be anything that is very highly focused, but it's not a general thing. So you have to just think of it that way, because most Maymester programs are about 2 to 3 weeks. So again, it runs by really quickly. It's not going to be like 3 months like you would in the summer, or like 5 or 6 months like you would in the fall. But that's the entire point, that you have to be fully dialed in, because you're going to have a lot coming at you all at once, all in a short period of time. So that's the first thing to consider, of what actually Maymester is and kind of what the structure for most of the programs are. So I always like to say that Maymester programs, even though they are definitely not as popular as the other ones, they sort of mirror summer programs in that way, of the fact that, you're there for such a shorter amount of time, but you still have a lot to do. You still have a lot to learn. And so one of the great parts about Maymester programs is that you usually start them before you even leave your campus, or if you are doing it with, an outside institution, you will have a lot of prep beforehand, because typically it feeds in some way to what you're already studying based on, how you've chosen the Maymester program. So there could be, let's say, if you're going through your university or your college, there's an on-campus a component of that, where maybe for like a month or so beforehand, you are focused on this particular project. And then what you're doing in the Maymester, when you go to Sri Lanka, or when you go over to Cambodia or Cuba, or even, places like London or wherever, where you're actually doing, like, you're executing the project. So you get a chance to actually sort of dive a bit deeper, get resources, get, general sources, research, and all of that. And then you're actually in the execution phase of the project, or of whatever you're working on, to finalize once you actually get to the location. So that is a very different setup than most study abroad programs, where the general structure of most study abroad programs is you're going to have either classes, an internship, or a mixture of the both. For most either spring, fall, summer, spring programs, that's typically how it works. So it's not as highly focused as you would get in a Maymester. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention, if I didn't mention earlier, is they tend to be a lot more affordable than even the summer programs, which are also more affordable than the fall or spring programs, because again, you're there for a shorter period of time. So a lot of students like to do Maymester, let's say if you are going through your college or university, because it's part of your semester. So if you're doing it through your college or your university, you basically have already paid for it, whether it be, through your scholarships, or through, someone paid your tuition, or you're doing it through loans. It's already packed in, and it's already built into the curriculum. So that is a bonus. That is kind of leading on to the next point of, well, is that, it is compared to a lot of other programs, even if, let's say, you're going through your university or your college, the different programs in the summer or the fall, they still may be a little bit more generalized, because you have to remember, most times you're not having people coming from all the same department going on those trips. So even though, you will have teachers that may be connected to your college or your university, wherever you're going, they may be leading the classes, that it might be a lot more generalized and dedicated towards electives. Whereas you will find with Maymester programs, they are very hyper-focused. And most of the time you will be either, if you're going with your college or your university that you're enrolled in, you'll be going with students that you already know. So you'll be going with students who are in your program, or at least within your department. And they're, one of them may be a senior, one of them may be a junior, one may be a sophomore, if they're able to study abroad at that time. But you're all kind of in the same boat, in the sense of you're all, doing medicine, you're all doing art, you're all doing communications. It's a lot different than, a semester-long program where you have people from different majors kind of all funneled together. So that's another good thing too, because you really get to sort of be close with people, network with people, because it tends to be a much smaller group as well. So before life changed in March 2020, the average size of a semester long program, whether it be with a college or a university or even an independent program, was between about 70, it could be from 70 to 175 kids, depending on where they were going, what the school was, what they were doing. So that's a lot of people. Whereas most Maymester programs tend to average between about 20 to 40 kids. So you have to think about that in the sense of, you, number one, already have something in common, even if you have not met them all before, although you will likely have that on-campus component where you will get to meet them before. But if you have not, you at least have the chance to, build some sort of, intimate connection with them and, get to know them more. And of course, like, since you are working on mission-driven things or project-based things, you get to really collaborate with people in a way that you might not if you were just on a traditional study abroad program where everyone's kind of in their own world studying, people are traveling over here doing this and that, so you don't get to make those connections as easily. The last point that I wanted to make about Maymester programs is that they are often used as sort of a springboard for the next step, particularly if you're looking for something in the summer. So I knew quite a few kids that did Maymester who went to my school. I did not do a Maymester. I was doing something else. And then I was heading into a full-length fall program. But I did know quite a few students who they were using their Maymester to set themselves up for an internship with an organization where they were going to start their Maymester with the organization. I forget where they were going, but it was overseas. And they were going to start their, basically, like, finish up the project that they were working on, but they were using it to set up an internship with that particular organization they were going to be working for during the Maymester. And so that is another thing to think about, that a lot of times, as we talked about with all types of study abroad, they can often lead to opportunities. But with Maymesters, a lot of times it tends to be juniors and seniors that do it, or second year and third year if you are in the UK or other parts of the world, where you are like in the bridge between, like, you're finishing up your last few credits of class, you're going to be graduating within a month, but you're also trying to bridge that gap and maybe potentially use it to springboard into your first job, or use it to, even if you have a huge apprenticeship or internship coming up, that maybe that's going to be the organization that you want to eventually work for, and they're requiring, some abroad experience, but you just want it to get a little bit. So that's another sort of way to think about it, is it going to be beneficial to your career, and is it going to help you in some way if you are able to do it? I know that sometimes students are a little bit hesitant with the Maymester because, as we've been talking about in this video, a lot of times people don't always know what that is. And then, like, if you put it on your resume that, oh, I studied abroad for 3 weeks, they're like, why were you there for 3 weeks? Because most people in their mind just think about the semester long or year long or however long programs. They don't necessarily think that I'm not saying that they don't think it's valuable, but you have to more or less like spell it out for them. Like, this is what I was doing. That's going to be a great opportunity to highlight that portion of the mission. So, like, make sure that you focus everything when you do a Maymester around the mission or whatever the focus of the program was, because I've already told you that most Maymester programs are very targeted and focused. So you want to present it in that way. You don't just want to say, like, oh, I went abroad for 3 weeks. Like, a lot of people do that when they're just on vacation. So you want to sort of, outline that for them and really sort of take them through, like, what did you accomplish during those 3 weeks? And, you can make it just as compelling as if you went for 6 months. You definitely can, because you're going to have a lot to talk about. And I don't just want students either, as I've mentioned in previous videos, to talk about their wins. I want you to talk about some of the challenges as well, because as you know, in life, we have challenges. And I think a lot of times when students study abroad, and I have to admit that, I've been guilty of this as well. When I go into different situations that you feel like, well, somehow it's going to be different, that, I'm going to be in this new place and all my problems are going to disappear and everything's just going to be great. And we know that that is not the case. So you're going to, even if you're just going for a Maymester for 3 weeks, there are going to be some, I don't want to say losses, but there's going to be some downsides to that. So I definitely want you, whether it be that you are journaling it or you are, explaining it in an interview, I want you to be able to articulate what are some of the downsides of that? So what did you have to go through once you got there? You know, was it hard for you to adjust? And of course, you were only there for 3 or 4 weeks, but what was that like? You know, were you going to a place where you were not used to the particular palate, and so you struggled with the food? What was it like when you got there and you know, didn't necessarily really vibe with your roommates? Like, all of those things can be tailored in a way to eventually work in your benefit. So whether you are explaining like how you deal with tough decisions, or whether you're sort of thinking about how, you know, within those 3 weeks you learned a lot about what you want to focus on in your career, whatever it is, you can definitely spin that into something positive. But I always like to tell people that even though I love being positive, I am a positive person, that everything is not always 100% all the time. And that, you know, as students, you want to come off as dynamic as possible, particularly as you're heading in towards your career. And people, even though, you know, like they understand that, you know, within an interview situation, you know how I feel about interviews, that they know that you're trying to put your best foot forward, that they still want to be able to hear what your process is of thinking. And so if you're explaining a Maymester to someone what you did and sort of that mission heavy lens, that's going to really help you to be able to show both your strengths and your weaknesses of what you're doing. So definitely consider that too, you know, once you're coming off of your Maymester, and how you can apply it in the future towards your career. All right, and so that is it for the video. I'm interested to hear, are any of you out there planning to do a Maymester? Had you heard of Maymester before? Does your college or university have Maymester, or do you need to look and see if they have Maymester? Please leave a comment below. I want to hear about it. And even if you are not doing Maymester, are you planning to study abroad in 2022? And where are you looking forward to going? I definitely want to hear that. So go ahead and leave a comment below. Please definitely like this video. Please share this video with someone else you know that might be interested in study abroad. And please definitely subscribe. I want to see you back here. As I said before, I release videos every single Friday and sometimes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, all things study abroad. And we always like to have a great time around here. In addition to giving information, it's just so exciting to talk about travel and study abroad and all those great things. So definitely please plan to stick around, and I will see you in the next one.